I remember about a month ago, I was journaling, and in my journal, I was reflecting on the bad habits that I was actually doing. Things like waking up late, scrolling when I should be working, being distracted. And even when I'll be working on these videos, sometimes I'll be writing the script and I'd get to a certain point and I just go watch YouTube or go make a beat or something and just get distracted. And I realized while I was journaling that these habits were actually called self-sabotage behaviors. And I didn't really know what self-sabotage was all that well. So that led me to start actually questioning what was actually going on. You see, every time that I would engage in a bad behavior or do something that I didn't want to do, I'd always think that it was something to do with willpower, or I didn't have enough discipline, or that I was weak. But that wasn't the case. After I started doing a little bit more research, I started to realize that it was actually something a lot more different than I actually thought. And after doing a little bit of research, I realized that self-sabotage isn't laziness. It's actually just emotional survival. So what that means is that usually your brain avoids pressure. Anytime that you're under pressure, your brain doesn't like it because it sees it as painful. Growth is painful. So eventually your brain will cause you to do something that you might not even want to do, even if it kills your goals. So what even is self-sabotage? So self-sabotage is not a flaw. It's almost like protection for you. Psychologists define self-sabotage as any behavior, conscious or unconscious, that actually blocks you from reaching long-term goals and any progress that you want to make. In other words, whenever you self-sabotage, you become your own worst enemy. You betray what you say you want. You see, there's a war inside of you. There's a war between the version of you that wants to become better and improve all the time and is always making progress, and the other part of you wants to stay safe. And the reason why is because growth usually costs something, and that's why it can be scary, and sometimes that's why growth is not always easy. In order to become who you're meant to be, you have to basically end the version of you who's keeping you stuck, that old part of you that's keeping you comfortable. So you're gonna have to let go of the past identity that's keeping you safe and keeping you the same person that you were. And you're gonna have to break bad habits that are actually just draining you from your potential. And then you're gonna have to eventually step into a level of power that scares this old version of you. And the resistance shows up as sabotage. It's the behaviors that you keep doing that you know don't get you anywhere. It's gonna be the scrolling. It's gonna be the delay. It's gonna be the relapse. And it's gonna be every broken promise you make to yourself. You see, when these things happen, every time you scroll, every time you delay change, every time you relapse on a behavior that you do not want to do, every time you break a promise, it keeps you questioning yourself. It keeps you the same person. And if you keep doing these things, eventually you're just going to question if you can even change. And eventually you're going to stop trying, because you're going to keep thinking that this is the version of you that's going to stay the same forever. So you'll stop trying to, quit bad habits, and you'll stop trying to become the person that you were meant to be. And you got to realize something is that you can change. You just have the wrong system. You see, you're trying to use willpower, but instead you have to use intelligent design. You have to use what's given to you to your advantage. You have to use your brain to your advantage. And the way to do that is through awareness. Every day you're walking through a battlefield, and every moment offers you two doors. You either have the pain of discipline, or you have the pain of regret. You see, you do not want this regret, because one slowly kills your spirit, but the other one builds you. And you can make this discipline a lot easier for yourself. And that's what we're going to go over a little bit more today. So the first step to actually fixing these self-sabotage behaviors is number one, whatever behavior you actually want to change, you have to realize that the behavior that you're actually doing, it's not your friend. It disguises itself as a friend, but actually it's your worst enemy. It shows up to make you feel better, but it disguises itself as something that it's not. Self-sabotage usually shows up as control. Because in a way it is control, because you chose it, because it's controlled fail. The truth is you didn't choose pleasure. You just escaped pressure. You escaped this pain of discipline, this pressure of discipline. Because I want to let you guys know something, and this took me a while to understand. If you can actually take control of this and stop slipping into these pains of regret, you'll stop seeing yourself as a failure. Somewhere in this quantum field of limitless possibilities, there is a version of you. The version of you that you dream about every single night. Every time you look in the mirror and you're disappointed in what you did or the actions that you didn't take, you see the opposite of your potential. You know your potential. If you want to live like this happy version of you, you have to align your thoughts, your emotions, and your actions. And you have to do that consistently. You need to be in alignment. You need to start trusting your word. Because if you want to master your reality, you have to master yourself first. You have to be your own dictator. Your word must be law. If you say you're going to stop eating sugary food, you have to stop doing that immediately, because this is where it gets deeper. You think it's just one more relapse, one more lazy night. Here's what you need to understand. You're not choosing to fail, but you're actually stopping the pressure of actually stopping that old self and ending that old self. And once you do that, the roadblocks of you right now and your true self begin to dissolve. So let's go over how self-sabotage actually works. So we have to go over what's called the self-sabotage habit loop. So this is basically what the self-sabotage habit loop actually looks like. So it always begins with a trigger. And this trigger could be anything. It could be feeling anxious, tired, overwhelmed, unprepared, judged, anxious, any of these, any like negative emotion that you're having, it's most likely the trigger. And then once you have that trigger, your brain automatically goes to a certain self-sabotage. It starts to think, you know what, I know how to fix this. So you start reaching for some sort of coping mechanism that provides instant relief or instant gratification. So that is going to be the routine. And then lastly, you have your reward. And what that is, that's where your brain basically says, this habit worked. I like doing this. And so then you strengthen this loop until you can figure out what the trigger is. Then you'll never actually escape the self-sabotage habit loop. And if you notice, this kind of looks similar to the framework that Atomic Habits had. So this is how a habit basically works. So that means that every time that you're actually having a negative emotion, your brain performs a habit to escape this trigger. So the cue is the trigger, craving is the routine and the response, and the reward, obviously same thing, reward. So it's basically like a mental habit that you have to escape any negative emotions. What happens is that, you're working hard, right? You're grinding all the time. And sometimes your brain needs a little bit of relief, but you refuse to actually let go of the pedal sometimes. So your brain is gonna look for that emotional relief. So if you do not give it that relief that it's looking for in a healthy way, it's gonna rebel. Your emotional mind is gonna rebel, and it's gonna find a way to get that relief. And that can show up in overeating, scrolling, or any negative habit. So you have to recognize what the trigger is. In this instance, the trigger is overworking and being overwhelmed. Okay, I'm gonna go look for something that's gonna relieve this, which is overeating. and you're indulging in pleasure. And then every time you're overwhelmed, it's gonna form this mental habit to say that every time I feel overwhelmed, I'm gonna overeat, or whatever this is for you. So how do you actually break this loop? So as I said before, what you have to do is have awareness. When a trigger comes by and you feel overwhelmed, you have to realize this. Or any other bad habit. It could be anything. Whenever there's a bad habit that you do not want to do, what's the negative emotion that you're having that's causing you to want to actually do a bad habit? And once you recognize it, feel the resistance. Don't try to stop it. Just be present in it. Be present in whatever you're feeling. Don't try to fight it. So whenever you're having this negative emotion, what you have to do instead is plan some sort of productive pleasure that replaces this bad habit. So that instead of going to back to that habit loop again, your brain is gonna start to realize, hey, if I just wait a little bit, I'm gonna be able to have the pleasure that I actually seek. So if we go back to that feeling overwhelmed at work, instead of actually eating and binging content and scrolling and all that good stuff that you think you need, instead we'll replace that, wait a little bit, and plan something more productive. This could be breath work. This could be taking a simple walk. This could be going to talk to someone or taking like a hot shower or something like that. But the important thing is that you just replace this. So you obviously have to make sure that, whatever this is, it suits it. If you're feeling lonely, you might want to reach for a type of content that you know is bad for you. So if you're feeling lonely, the better thing to do is go talk to someone. So the formula for beating this is to, number one, recognize the trigger and plan the pleasure that suits this need. So the emotional mind is not evil, it's just neglected. If you don't give it real pleasure, it's gonna start chasing fake pleasure. If you don't give it alignment, it's gonna choose chaos. If you don't give it direction, it's gonna spiral into loops. And that's how self-sabotage survives. And that's how your old self survives. It disguises itself as comfort. You don't need motivation, you need momentum. And momentum starts with one intentional decision. And you have to make that decision today. Pick one habit that you want to be absolutely done with today, and replace it with something that's actually going to align with the person that you are becoming. There's a version of you that's already free. It doesn't flinch at discomfort. He doesn't need to escape his own path. He is grounded. He is certain. He is focused. He's not out there somewhere in the future. That version of you is in you right now, but he's buried under years of false comfort, broken promises, and just a bunch of emotional chaos. And you don't want that anymore. You don't need to become him. You need to just remember him. The best version of you has always been waiting, not to be built, but to be revealed. And that can start today. So if this video helped you, make sure that you do subscribe. I'll be posting more videos like this in the future so that you guys can actually live the life that you guys want to live and become the people that you guys want to become. So if I helped you, make sure you subscribe. But that is all for today. I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I'll talk to you guys soon.